I'm glad you're here. We are in the second week of a series called Chasing Peace. And just to bring you up to speed from where we were last week, because if you're anything like me, you walked out of the doors into the parking lot and you forgot completely what was said. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Last week, we established that some of us had dreams, like what we thought life would be. We thought our marriage would be at a certain place by now, or our families would be at a certain place by now, or our careers would be at a certain place. We thought parenting would look a certain way, and there's a reality that that's not how sometimes it goes, right? Like there's the reality of how we thought and how it is, and it's in the middle that we chase after peace. And at the end of our teaching last week, we kind of gave a hard reset. And it was simply this, and this is not a Dan statement, I've heard this for years, but the hard reset, just to kind of remind ourselves of the truth, is that where my feet are planted, my God is present. So even if I'm living in the gap, right, there's what I thought my life would be, there's what my life is. In that middle part, wherever I am, my God is there with me. And the truth of the matter is we've given up on perfect, or at least should have tried to give up on perfect, because there is no perfect, right? There's no perfect marriage. There's no perfect spouse. There's no perfect job. There's no perfect career. There's no perfect church because you're here and I'm here. There's no perfect. But wherever you are, wherever your feet are planted, God is present. Now, that led into the underlying question of the entire series. How would your outlook on life change if you actually believed that God is with you in every situation? Like, literally think about that. How would your outlook on life change? Listen, your circumstances might not change. You might be living in that gap, stuck in the middle, right? What you thought, what you dreamt, what you wished, what you hoped, and what it actually is in that middle part. But how would your outlook on that middle part look if you actually believe that in every situation, God is with you? Now, Genesis 37 is our text today. We're looking at the life and the story of a guy named Joseph. Now, Joseph came from a dysfunctional family. So from Genesis 37 to Genesis 50, there's about 14 chapters where the story of Joseph is unpacked in the Bible. And again, if you were with us last week, we established something kind of a nuance, right? Like God gets 2 chapters for the entire creation of the world. The sun, the moon, the stars, all hung in place. The waters, the land, the creatures, all put in place. God's like, I only need 2 chapters for that. I only need 6 days. But the life and the story of Joseph, I'm going to give that 14 chapters in the Bible. And I really want you to see how this works, because there's a certain way and a certain path that God wants us to go after. And so Joseph, if you read up to Genesis 37, Joseph actually comes from a dysfunctional family. Just a show of hands, how many of you came from a dysfunctional family? I'm just kidding. Don't raise your hands at that and don't point at them. Some of us came from a dysfunctional family, and I found some fun dysfunctional family tidbits of information this week. This one says this: I told my younger sister that she was adopted. She couldn't tell mom and dad that she knew she was adopted because they would send her back. So she kept it quiet for 3.5 years. That's dysfunction. This one's kind of funny. My brother and I convinced our little sister, who was 5 at the time, that she had a disease. She had a disease and was going to die in 3 days. Those are mean brothers, okay? And then 3 days later, my mom found my little sister crying in the bathtub saying, this is my last bath. That's dysfunction. It's funny, but it's dysfunction. And it's not just kind of things that are said, right? Meet my family, where the loudest person wins and logic doesn't matter. Some of you are like, that is my family. You come from dysfunction. There's a whole bunch of dysfunction in this picture. Like his sweater is dysfunctional, but the quote, old people at weddings always poke me and say, you're next. So I started doing the same thing and saying that to them at funerals. That's dysfunctional. It's funny. And if you've ever done this, I'm telling you right now, you come from dysfunction. And if you're the leader of the pack buying matching pajamas, you're the dysfunctional person. And it's not just families, sometimes it's just holding a puppy and wearing an ugly Christmas sweater. The reality is, no one's immune from the dysfunction, but we're going to look at the dysfunction of the family lineage that Joseph came from. And we're going to lead into something that I think is really important that we talk about. So Genesis 37, verse 2, it says this: when Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Okay, let's just pause here for a second and unpack this verse. When he was 7, I can get that he's tattling. But he's 17. It's time to grow up. And he tattles on his brothers. He goes to his dad. He's like, Dad. And he's like, Mom, Phineas and Ferb are making a title sequence. Right? It's like going and tattling at 17. Now watch what happens next. Jacob loved Joseph more than his other brothers, more than his other children, because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special coat made for Joseph. It was a beautiful robe. So Jacob has 4 wives, 13 kids, 12 sons and a daughter. And Joseph's the youngest, born to him in old age, and he's now the favorite. And he rewards him with a beautiful coat. So you got to picture the dysfunction that's being bred in the family. Joseph goes to dad, tattles on the brothers. They probably get reprimanded, and Jacob rewards Joseph for tattling. Parenting 101. If the younger brother tattles on the older siblings and you reward him with stuff, you're probably going to be hated as the dad, and the younger brother is going to be hated all the more. And this is what it says. Joseph's brothers hated him because their dad loved him more. There's dysfunction. And they couldn't say a kind word to him. Remember when your mom used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's some quiet family dinners. They couldn't even say a word to him because they were loathing with hatred towards him. One night, Joseph had a dream. And when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. This was his dream. He says, we were out in the fields, guys. Guess what? We were tying up bundles of grain. And guess what? My bundle stood up and your bundles all stood up. They all gathered around my bundle and they bowed down low to me and they began to worship me. Guess what, guys? You're going to worship me. Guess what, guys? I'm going to rule over you. Guess what, guys? I'm going to lord over you. And I'm the youngest. And I've got a cool robe. And they hated him all the more because of his dreams. But they hated him all the more because of how he talked about the dreams. We're going to unpack this morning because this is really, really important. You've got a dysfunctional dad creating dysfunction within the family. The dysfunction within the brothers was that they were going to kill the favorite son, lie about it, cover it up, lie to their dad. They eventually throw him in an empty well, sit down for a picnic, see a traveling band of gypsies heading down to Egypt to sell and trade. And they're like, what if we just sell our brother to them, make 20 pieces of silver, then we don't have to lie to our dad and cover up a murder. We can just say he died, he was killed. We don't have to cover it up, he's gone. Cool, did you bring the lunch? Did you bring the drinks? You got dessert? Awesome. And then they have a picnic. Like, you want to talk about dysfunction, right? Like, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And so Joseph is sold into, in essence, into slavery. And there's how he thought his life would go. The dreams, the visions, God-sized, God-ordained, God-given dreams and visions. And there's how life was actually going for him. And in the gap, for 20 plus years, he lives in Egypt and he lives in a prison. He lives in a pit. As my mentor used to say, before the palace is the pit. Before you're elevated to positions of leadership and authority and influence, there's a pit. And it's how you live in that gap that matters. And that's why God dedicated 14 chapters in the book of Genesis to this. He only needed 2. But I want to just kind of hone in on something here for a minute. When your life is not going how you thought it would, and you're living where you never thought you would, or in a marriage you never thought you'd be. You thought by now you'd be this far ahead. By now you'd have this in your job. By now you'd have this many zeros in your bank account. Not just zero, but this many zeros extra, right? You thought your health would be different. When we're not where we want to be in life, oftentimes we ask this question: who is to blame for this? Because surely it's not me. It can't be my fault. No, I won't take any responsibility. We want to blame other people. So let's unpack the story of Joseph. Who's to blame? Is it the dad? Yes. He's treating his son with favoritism, creating animosity, creating dysfunction, creating the division and the divide within the family. Is it the dad's fault? Yes. Is it the brother's fault? Yes. For sure. They hated him. They should have been mature enough to just say, I'm just going to ignore this. I don't like this. This isn't fair. And when I start my own family, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to break the cycle. I'll break the chain right here. But they didn't. They were to blame. Was it Joseph's fault? Yes. He's like running around in his robe, telling them about my dream in my robe. You're going to bow down to me while wearing my robe. You're going to worship me. I'm going to rule over you while wearing my robe and my fancy coat. When things don't go as we planned or hoped or dreamed they would, we want to blame somebody because surely it's not my fault. And I get it. I'm good at blaming. I'm good at blaming other people. But what we have to understand, and hear me, the Bible is not about good people getting good things from a good God. We've made it that in Western Christianity, that the Bible is about me getting from God. And that's not what the Bible is about. The Bible is about a good God using dysfunctional people, and he does give good things and good gifts and good grace and good forgiveness and good mercy and good compassion. But it's not about me getting from God. It's about me giving to God. My life, my family, my praise, my worship, my honor. And so when things don't go our way, we want to blame someone. And here's what we say. When things don't go my way, we say this: why? Why did this happen? Why am I here? Why can't I catch a break? Why can't you help out? Why? Why me? Why can't anything go right? And listen, I don't even think that that's a sinful question. It's a natural question. I don't even necessarily think it's a wrong question. I just don't think it's a helpful question. And so when you're living in the gap, when you thought life should be a certain way, but the reality is you're down here and you're living in this gap, trying to get to what you thought life should be or could be, instead of saying, why God? Why is this happening? Why me? Why can't you? Say, what God? What, God, are you trying to teach me? What, God, am I able to learn while I chase peace and live in the gap? What, God? What can I learn right now? What, God? What am I doing that you don't want me to do? And what am I not doing that I should be? What can I do to become more like your son? Don't ask why. It's not necessarily wrong, but pivot, change it, shift it just a bit. What, God? What can I do to become more like your son? What can I learn? There is a sin in the story of Joseph and his brothers, and there is a sin in the story of our lives that we don't often talk about. If you're living your life stuck in that gap right now, the pit before the palace, you're not where you thought, hoped, dreamt, wished, longed to be. There's a sin that I don't even think, I think no one's immune from it. I think everybody is susceptible to the sin. And here's what it is. And we don't talk about it in church. We don't talk about no, right? We don't talk about this in church. I mean, here it is. It's the sin of jealousy and envy. In fact, James, the half-brother of Jesus, he wrote about this in James chapter 3, verse 16. He says, where there's jealousy and where there's selfish ambition, you are going to find disorder and evil of every kind. Where there's jealousy, the brothers were jealous. Joseph got the coat. Joseph got the favoritism. Joseph got the way that he wanted to live. Joseph got the dreams. Joseph got the visions. Joseph. And they were jealous of Joseph. And there was disorder and evil. They sold their brother, planned to kill him, chucked them in a pit, and then sold them. That's evil. That's disorder because of jealousy, selfish ambition. Joseph had selfish ambition. Hey guys, guess what? I'm the youngest, but guess what you're going to do? You're going to bow down to me. I have these dreams. I have these visions. The sun, the moon, the stars, they all gathered around me. This is me. Selfish ambition. And you know what happens? There was disorder and evil of every kind. And when you're in a season of struggle, if your heart's at peace, it gives life, but envy will rot you. And if you're living that gap right now, lean in. And you're like, Dan, this isn't me. I don't suffer from this. I don't struggle with this. It's probably because, it could be because, it might be because envy and jealousy have crept into our hearts. And we don't talk about this in the church. I think everybody wrestles with this, but very few people will admit it. Envy and jealousy. Men, we are envious and jealous people. We won't admit it, but we are. Like, because I have the microphone, right, and I kind of preach or teach or lead from example, I've confessed to you, I've admitted, like, I'm jealous of men who can build things with their hands. I can break it, I can't build it. I'm jealous and envious of men who are like, I change my own oil and I rotate my own tires, and I'm like, I could probably empty the oil can by stabbing like a screwdriver through it, but I wouldn't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it, and I'm jealous of people who can. And man, we don't like to admit this, but we are jealous people. We're jealous of others who are better at things than we are. Athletes, oh, they're better at sports than I am. Musicians, they play better, they sing better. I'm jealous of that. Craftsmanship and handiwork. We're jealous of people who have more leadership or more influence or more affluence. We're jealous people, but we don't talk about it. And women, you're not off the hook. You're jealous people too. Envious of their body. Man, I wish I could wear that. I mean, I wear it, but they wear it. We're envious people, and teenagers, young adults, right? Like, you're not off the hook either. Social media has just amplified the envy and jealousy with social media influencers and how many followers you have and how many retweets or reposts you get or how many likes you get. And it creates this jealousy. They have and I don't. And if you find yourself in the gap, chasing, it could be because envy and jealousy have snuck in and settled in. Envy is wanting what other people have, and jealousy is the feeling towards them because they have what you want. They define each other. They're interchangeable. The brothers were envious that Joseph got the coat, that Joseph got the dreams, that Joseph got the visions, that Joseph got the favoritism, and they were jealous inside because they wanted that. They wanted some of Dad's attention. They wanted some of Dad's affirmation. They would have loved to have dreams and visions and been the person that the hay bales bowed down to. Envy and jealousy. And listen, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there going, not me. Nope, I'm not envious and I'm not jealous at all. Just let your guard down for a minute and lean in. Envy isn't always clear, but it will always make you compare. Like you don't always see it. It's not always visible. It's not always definable, tangible, but it will always make you compare. Like if you're constantly looking over your fence to their lawn, to their home, to their family, to their careers, to their money, to their cars, to theirs, and you're not focusing on yours, that could be because envy and jealousy have snuck in. Oftentimes, there are sins in people's lives and sins in our lives that we can see, or we can see the effects of. Let me give you a couple examples. Anger. If you struggle with anger, you see it, and other people see it, and other people feel it, and there's a ripple effect. If you struggle with addiction, you see it, you feel it, and other people see it, and other people feel it. Those sins are visible. They're clear. But the sin of jealousy or the sin of envy, you don't always see it. You don't always sense it. It's not always clear. In essence, the sin of jealousy and envy sit in your blind spot. Anybody drive a car? And you know what I'm talking about when I say the blind spot. If you're changing lanes, you're supposed to do a quick blind spot check. I was coming home. Harrison is playing a hockey tournament this weekend up in Penn State. I was coming home with Micah to be at church, and I was driving. If you've been to Penn State, if you come down 99, the Highway 99, down into Altoona, it's a long kind of highway down, and it was kind of rainy and misty and foggy, and it wasn't quite nighttime, so you didn't need your lights, but it was in that dusk time, and you're like, it's hard to see, and it's coming down, probably doing 60, 65 miles an hour, coming down into Altoona. And I did a blind spot check. I was going to pass a truck, did this, and kept coming. And then I just thought, okay, I'm going to check one more time before I go over. And this was just last night. And I did a quick blind spot check again, and there was a car sitting doing, if I was doing 60, he was doing 60.125, like just barely coming. And I'm like, whew, that could have been bad had I not done a blind spot check again. And envy sits in our blind spot. You can see the effects of anger. You can see the effects of addiction. You can see the effects of lust. You can see the effects of other sins. But jealousy and envy, they sit in our blind spot. And jealousy and envy will undo you quicker than anything else, because it makes you compare, but envy leads to resentment. And this is what undoes us. We begin to get resentful. The brothers were resentful now. Scripture says they couldn't even say a kind word. They couldn't even talk to their brother. They were so comparing what he got, and it led them to anger. It led them to resentment. It led them to sell him. They were living in this misery. Now, let's have a little all skate, right? This is where if you're new around here, we've got some new people. This is where everybody participates. And so if you know this, you go ahead and fill in the blank. Because in Romans it says this: we are to mourn with those who, yes, exactly, mourn. We're to weep with those who weep, perfect. And we're to rejoice with those who rejoice. Yes. Mourn with people who are mourning, weep with people who are weeping, and rejoice with people who are rejoicing. I will confess, it's sometimes a lot easier to mourn with somebody who's mourning because misery loves company. And sometimes I'll even say this: I can mourn when somebody's rejoicing, and I can feel sorry for myself, and I can lament, and why not me? And if I'm really honest, there's been times where I've rejoiced when people mourn, or people are weeping. Years ago, worked for a pastor who was a narcissist. He was a vile, evil man. And I was hoping and longing, and probably embarrassingly enough, probably praying that he would fall. And he did. He had an affair, multiple affairs, fell. And I remember rejoicing. I was so happy that he fell. And I had to confess, because that was a sin. Because of the damage and the ripple effect of that. His wife, his kids, the church, the hurt. And I had to confess to God, God, I'm sorry that I celebrated that someone fell morally, upended their lives and upended their church and upended their family and caused so much damage, and I'm celebrating. Rejoicing or resenting will tell you the posture of your heart. If you're struggling at work and someone gets the promotion or the raise, and you're like, they didn't even deserve that. That should have been me. I worked for that, and they kind of swept in and took it. Do you rejoice with them that they got it, or do you resent them? You're single, longing for a boyfriend or longing for a girlfriend. And then your friend comes to you and say, they asked me out. I got a boyfriend. I got a girlfriend. Do you rejoice with them or do you resent them? Or maybe you've been dating for a while and you're longing for the day that your boyfriend pops the question, gets down on a knee and says, will you marry me? And it hasn't come yet, but your best friend, an acquaintance at work, just posted, engaged. Do you rejoice with them or do you resent them for what they got and you didn't? You're struggling with infertility. Oh, you want a baby. And you see a friend or you see an acquaintance post or tell you or you get word that they're pregnant. Do you rejoice with them or do you resent them? Because envy leads to resentment. When your health is failing and they get a miracle and their health is restored, do you rejoice or do you resent? See, the real test of envy, and again, few people will ever admit this, is when someone has something that they want and they lose it. The real test of envy is that you weep and you mourn with them, you don't rejoice. That's the real test. And I was being envious and I was being jealous and I was being petty. And here's what happens. Envy sucks the life out of you. It sucks the joy out of your pursuit of peace because we're chasing peace. Envy sucks the life out of you. It sucks the joy out of you. The other day I was vacuuming and we have a dog. Her name's Maple. She's 3 years old. Shameless plug. If you need a well-trained, well-behaved, up-to-date on all the shots and chipped and spayed and all of those things, we have a dog for you. I have allergies to Maple, and I've kind of sucked it up for a couple of years. But Micah now has developed a severe allergy to her, so we actually do need to rehome her. So if you know anybody looking for a good-sized, she's about 100 pounds, and she is well-trained, doesn't beg, doesn't get on the couch, doesn't sleep in our bed. She knows where her place is. She's well-trained. If you know somebody that needs a dog, please let me know, okay? That's a shameless plug for myself. Gave a shameless plug for Pastor Don's book like a month ago, right? And it's here, and we're selling them, and they're out at the Welcome Center. You can pick up your copy, $10 for a copy. All the proceeds go to the church, and that's a very generous gift by Pastor Don. But I was vacuuming, back to the real reason I started talking about this. I was vacuuming, and the dog fur that I'm allergic to, so we try to vacuum at least once a day. And I'm vacuuming, and I'm watching, because we have laminate floors on the main level, and you get near the fur and it gets sucked up. Like, you don't have to be like over top of it while you're vacuuming. Anything close to the vacuum is going to get sucked up. That's the power of envy too. You get close to wanting what they have or longing for what they have. It's going to suck the life out of you. It's going to suck the joy out of you. And then Solomon, who's the wisest man ever, he wrote this: all toil and achievement, all work and striving, all good and bad, All work and achievement spring from one person's envy. And it's like chasing after the wind. See, envy and jealousy are a sin that we don't like to talk about. We probably won't even admit or confess, but I don't think anybody's immune from it. It makes us compare. It makes us resentful. It sucks the life and the joy out of our pursuit of Jesus and our pursuit of joy. And here's the bottom line. Envy leads to emptiness, and envy leads to resentment. Envy creates this emptiness within us. Here's the good news. This is the good news for Dan, because years ago when I was celebrating while somebody was falling and I had to confess, I was brought to John chapter 14, verse 27. And Jesus said this, I'm going to give you something. He says to his disciples, I leave you, peace I leave you, peace I give you. I don't give to you as the world gives. The world's version of peace is when everything's going perfectly in your life, when everything's going according to your plan. You type A's who have your plan and you follow it. That's when you can have peace. But Jesus said, I don't give peace that way. I'm going to give you peace while you're living in the gap. There's how you thought life should go and what you dreamt life would be, and there's actually how it is and how you're living. And in this middle, I'm going to give you something, and I'm going to give you peace. And it's not how the world views it and how the world gives it. So don't let your heart be troubled, and don't be afraid. I'm going to give this to you. See, I had to confess. I have to confess to God, I have sinned. I have celebrated when someone else fell. It's a little embarrassing, isn't it? But on the other end of confession is a realization. Oftentimes our envy isn't about what they have. It's about what we don't. Confession, when we realize and recognize and verbalize, I'm envious or I'm jealous, it's not about what they have, it's about what we don't. It's not about what God's given them, it's what God hasn't given us. The brothers, they were envious, not because Joseph was the youngest. They were envious and they were jealous because God gave him visions and him dreams and him these massive goals and aspirations and didn't give it to them. That's what envy does. It's not because they have, it's because we don't. It wasn't that Joseph had the coat. It's that they didn't get one. It wasn't that Joseph was the favorite. It's that they didn't get time with their dad. It was all the attention went to Joseph. Oftentimes, envy and jealousy is not about what they have. It's about what we don't have. But here's the truth. Confession breaks the grip of envy. Confession. If you confess it. Because on the other side of confession is the grace of Jesus. If you confess with your mouth, something powerful happens. See, confession puts Jesus back on the throne of our lives. I got to wrap up. Here's how I want to end. Jesus has promised us peace. He says, my peace I give to you. I don't give as the world gives. I'm going to give you peace. I'm going to give you an understanding and a settledness within your heart that the world won't even understand. It's going to defy logic. I want to give this to you. It's a gift to you so that while you're living in the gap, while you're living in the pit, before you get to the palace, right? And we're going to get to that next week with Joseph and the week after. He gets to the palace, but he lives in the pit. And Jesus says, I want to give you something that will settle you in the middle, settle you in the gap, and it's my peace. So here's how I want to close. I want to ask everybody to stand. And I want you to grip your hands together. Go ahead and clasp them together. And if you clasp tight enough, long enough, your fingers are going to get tingly, okay? Then you know you're really doing it right. Go ahead and clasp your hands. Like, this is the grip. This is the grip of envy, and this is the grip of jealousy. Now, I'm not going to ask you to come forward. I'm not going to ask you to hold your hands above your head so everybody can see. I just want you to rest your hands down at your waist. That's it. And I want to pray. And if you want to confess to God that you have struggled with the grip of jealousy and envy, but on the other side of grace, the other side of confession is the grace of Jesus, the forgiveness of Jesus. While I'm praying, I just want you to release that grip and then receive. Receive the grace, the forgiveness. As you confess, oh, Jesus, I have been jealous. I have been envious of what they have and who they have and what they are and where they are. And I've asked why. Why not me? Why can't you, God, help me? And I need to change that to what? God, what are you trying to teach me right now? Listen, I want to pray for you. But I can't do this for you. If you want to allow God, in his kindness, to break the grip of jealousy and envy, just unclasp your hands while I'm praying. Hold them open and receive the grace. So God, right now, in this room, I know, because I don't think anybody's immune from it, I know there's some people who are gripping so tight because they've been so jealous, and they're just going to say right now, God, I release that to you. I need your peace. It's not peace of the world that is a calm assurance when everything goes my way. It's a peace that comes from you, that even if it's not going my way, I can still have my hope and my trust in you, my faith and my obedience towards you. So as we confess our jealousy, as we confess our envy, as we confess our selfish ambition, God, I pray that you would break the grip of that. And on the other side of our confession is your grace. And may we step into a freedom, may we step into a peace that only you can give. It's interesting as you hold your hands open, it's a reminder of that song last week that we kind of highlighted just for a second in the teaching. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you in his hands. And he only needed 6 days and 2 chapters to do it all. And Joseph gets 14. From Genesis 37 to 40, the story, the unpacking of that entire story takes 14 chapters and many, many, many years. And it's a reminder this morning that God has you in his hands.